Last month, I walked you through how to blip your downshifts for smoother corner entries. But the top question in the comments, Dave, how do you upshift without the clutch? All right, challenge accepted. You see, you don't need a quickshifter or some high-end electronics to shift like a pro. In fact, I'm going to show you a technique so smooth, so clean, that even on bikes that do have a quickshifter, I still use this method because it works better. So grab a coffee or maybe a beer. We're about to take your upshifts to a whole new level. Hi, my name is Dave, and I've been a professional motorcycle coach for 25 years, starting with state basic and experienced riding courses. I'm currently a champion certified coach with Yamaha Champ School, and I'm certified with the USMCA, among other things. I've helped literally thousands of riders with this problem. So let's get into it. Now, I'm going to go into the details here in a second, but first, let's talk about why you'd want to do a clutchless upshift in the first place. Well, first, it's fun. Like it's a lot of fun. And why do we ride motorcycles? But it's more than just that. Clutchless upshifts are both faster and, when done correctly, smoother. Now, faster may not be a super high priority on a street ride, but it's the faster that results in the smoother. And smoother is always a worthy goal. Anything that prevents unsettling the chassis is what I like to call valuable. I mean, think about it. Racing is our laboratory, right? Racing is where we test things. It's the petri dish of speed, stupidity, and the occasional stroke of brilliance. And that's where these techniques were perfected, because anything that gives a rider an advantage in getting to the end of the race first is going to be pursued. And that's why quickshifters were developed. Simply leave the throttle wide open and move the lever to the next higher gear. Look, I watched my lap times drop consistently the day I installed a quickshifter on my old SV650 race bike. It's measurable, but it also frees up attention, something that's in precious supply when riding at 10/10 pace. Now, I went into more detail on this in the last video, so I'm not going to go too deep here, but quickshifters work when this doodad senses pressure from your foot. The ECU briefly cuts fuel and/or spark, and that relieves pressure on the constant mesh motorcycle transmission gears, allowing the bike to shift up. But quickshifters do have limitations. The biggest one being is they're designed to work when you are at or near full throttle and high RPMs. You know, when you're ringing the throttle like it's a medieval torture device. But try using one gently and it shifts about as gracefully as a drunk walrus on a treadmill. And that's where a lot of complaints about quickshifters come from. They are not intended for sedentary or leisurely shifts. They're designed for balls to the wall heavy pulls. Now, Honda has tried to address this with their brilliant e-clutch, and I'll link to a video if you'd like to learn more. But that's why there are advantages of going old school and doing this the old-fashioned way, because our brain is more advanced than the motorcycle's brain. But here's the thing, learning the skill that works to shift faster and smoother without any of that tech, no sensors, no wires, just your practice hand and a little bit of finesse, well, that works no matter what bike you're on. I want to take a minute to talk about how I get most of these camera angles. This is the newest 360 camera from Insta360, the X5. Now, I've been using 360 cameras for quite a while now, and I think this is my third or fourth one. My first one was great for the form factor and simplicity, but if the lenses got damaged, that was it. This one was great because you could replace the lens covers if they got damaged, but it made the camera bigger and harder to transport. Now this one took a hit so hard that it broke the cover and still scratched the lens. You see right there? But this new one, the X5, seems to have fixed all of that. The lenses themselves are harder, but also replaceable without the need for an extra cover. Plus, Insta's wind reduction is just incredible. So if you're on the fence about a 360 camera or thinking it's time to upgrade, check out the new X5. Link and coupon code are in the description or right down there in the corner. Okay, so now there's two ways you can do this. You can go 100% clutchless with your upshifts, or we can add in a little bit of clutch. Do it wrong and yeah, your transmission will sound like it's trying to escape the bike and start a new life as a blender. But do it right and it'll feel like magic. Now I'm gonna explain the pros and cons here in a second. But now let's go through the sequence. First, you have to anticipate your upshifts, because to really make this work, the shift lever has to be preloaded. That means before we're getting ready to shift, we want to get our toe into position and take all the slack out of the shift lever and put a moderate amount of pressure into the upshift. Now, exactly how much pressure is going to depend on your bike and shift linkage and what have you. But as soon as you roll off the throttle, that preloaded tension releases and the shift just clicks. How much you back off the throttle is going to depend on how fast you're going and what your RPMs are. But basically, we want to briefly roll off into a neutral throttle phase. Sometimes that can take a fair bit of roll, other times it'll barely be anything. Now, here's the part that separates the smooth from the sketchy: timing. Let me show you exactly what this looks like in real time. Whoa, that happens fast. Let's slow it down. Now at half speed. And real time. Now, I mentioned there are two ways to do this. The second one involves the clutch. The way I like to do it is to keep 2 fingers on the clutch, and as I back off the throttle, at the exact same time, I squeeze the clutch in, but just a bit. The lever doesn't travel very far at all, just enough for the clutch to slightly disengage or engage. Think an eighth or maybe a quarter of a pull depending on your bike. A fair bit less than you'd squeeze it for a blip downshift. And here's what this looks like in real time. Okay, 25%, 50%, and real time. You know, and understand, this is going to take some practice. Now, I've told this story before, but years ago, I did a 2-up track ride with a professional racer. Unimaginable speeds, braking force, and lean angle. But I never once felt him change gears. And this was long before quickshifters were really a thing. That 2-up ride motivated me to take my shifting to the next level, and I invested a fair bit of mental energy over the next year into getting better at the seemingly benign task of changing gears. And at the end of that year of focused attention, yeah, my shifts got really good. So I think it's worth the effort. Now, is this going to hurt your bike? Well, it depends. Look, you should understand that most race bikes see frequent engine rebuilds, and a race bike that sees 10,000 miles in its lifetime is a rare thing. So you're going to see both arguments. Folks saying they've done clutchless upshift for years, and others say you shouldn't because racers don't care about longevity. Both arguments have merit. You're going to have to decide for yourself. Now, for sure, if you do it wrong, you can really wreck things. But if you do it right, the wear should be minimal. And some motorcycles are going to take to clutchless upshifts better than others. So, you know, make good choices. So what do? This isn't gospel, this is from the book of Dave, but I rarely do the clutchless upshift, and instead I go with the 2-finger mini clutch squeeze, a blip upshift if you will. I do this for a number of reasons. First, it's every bit as fast, and I think it's a little bit smoother. Plus, it works just as well at slower speeds, including around town stuff. But I also change how I'm shifting based on how or what I'm riding. I don't rely solely on one method for every shift. If this video helped level up your riding or just gave you something new to try, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Now, a lot of folks are saying that my videos aren't showing up in their feed anymore, so I started a monthly newsletter with riding tips and new uploads, and the link's down below should you consider joining. Now, if you did like this video, I think you're really gonna like this one. Special thanks to our channel members for helping me keep everything out from behind a paywall, and thank you for watching. Ride on and ride well.